Welcome to the Underwater Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the world of underwater portrait photography, cinematography, and everything in between, with your host, Brett Stanley. Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of the podcast. I gotta say, I'm pretty excited with the response that we've been getting. Our first episode last week with Ilsa Moore, I think got about almost 200 downloads, so that's pretty encouraging. And with that in mind, I've been doing interviews almost non-stop for the past week, and we've got some great guests lined up. But in today's episode, we're going to be chatting with Norwegian underwater cinematographer Kjetil C. Astrup, whose name I'm pretty sure I'm totally mangling. Kjetil did say that most people just call him K, but I ended up Googling how to pronounce it just before the interview, so hopefully I got it right. He didn't say anything about it, but he's probably too nice. So Kjetil and I chat about his experiences shooting in the freezing waters of Norway, his upcoming work in the new Bond film No Time to Die, and how personal work can lead to some amazing opportunities. Well, that's enough of my blathering. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Kjetil.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. And what I would love to get into first is just how you kind of got into underwater operating and cinematography. Were you in the industry before you got into underwater, or is that something you kind of started in?
Yeah, I started off from early on when I did diving in 2006. I think I did my license because as soon as I turned old enough, me and a friend went to the Red Sea and we just wanted to do the diving license. And on the boat, we saw these guys having these huge underwater housings and cameras, and they were making movies and stuff. And we thought, okay, that's pretty cool. And I thought one day I want to go back and I want to do the same stuff. So about 1.5 years later, I was finished with high school. And I went straight to the Red Sea and I got a job as an underwater videographer, and I was filming dolphins and moray eels and different stuff for the big diving shops in the Red Sea. And at the same time, I knew I was going into studying film or cinematography. So I always combined those two in one way. And I did my cinematography bachelor in Perth in Australia. And after that, I've been kind of roaming around in the world a little bit backpacking, a little bit filming. And I ended up back in Norway again in 2011. And after that, I turned into the drama world a little bit more, motion picture, filming in the water as an operator, as a DP. And since there are very few of us in Scandinavia, I try to specialize in everything that has with water to do. So I do surf, I do underwater stuff, in water, and different stuff. So until this day, I managed to become also kind of a dealer with Hydroflex with the rental house that I work with, which is called Storyline Studios, which is the biggest rental house for a camera here in Norway, and we cooperate with the Hydroflex, and I go out as an operator. So from everything to short films to feature films, music videos, or different stuff.
And so it was really just you went straight into this wanting to do underwater rather than anything else.
Yeah, I just want to go straight to specialize as an underwater cinematographer because from an early age I understood that was my call. And everything I've done, the last 10, 15 years has been towards that and just really peaking that niche because in Scandinavia, there are so few of us. So for me, I actually have jobs. I do maybe 2 projects in average a month. So it's not enough to have it as a full-time job. So I work at the rental house at the same time, at the camera department. But I always wanted to really specialize in it, and we have so many inquiries about different kind of stuff. So it's just always fun to have a challenge. Can you sink this person on the platform? Can you fill this room up with water? Can you do tracking shots in surf on the water jet? And all this different stuff. And at the same time, I have this niche in Scandinavia. We also worldwide have this niche of having the Norwegian location, with ice, cold water, kelp forest, or orcas and wrecks and fjords, and some unique stuff that we can offer the international market as well.
I guess going from the Red Sea where you learnt to dive and then back to Scandinavia where it's below freezing. How does that kind of go for you? Do you find yourself more specialized in the colder water sort of projects?
Being in Norway, we have the unique locations, but with all the unique locations, it's also remote. And as you say, we have these cold conditions, and we need to follow all the local regulations, which is a little bit stricter here than other countries in Europe. So we always try to be flexible, but when filming here, you need to know a lot of diving. The diving needs to be in a proper hand. Like, you have to be an expertise in diving first, and then you have to film again, because then you don't only need to be good at diving or only good at filming. Now you are actually combining those two, and you're doing it in a harsh element. So here it's both cold. After the Red Sea, I had to specialize in dry suit diving, and I also managed a couple of diving centers and became instructor in dry suit and ice diving and all that stuff. So I built up my network and experience in the diving industry as well. And then when I fully started with cinematography in the water, we now have all these good plans and equipment and experience of doing the filming in these harsh elements. So you feel like you have a big, or even like a vast experience whenever you want to go out and do stuff. Whenever I go back to the Red Sea, or like we went to the Mediterranean last year with National Geographic to film a documentary. And even though the conditions there are easier to dive in, you just feel so much more confident, because you come from a place where, it's cold diving, maybe it's drift, and it's freezing on the surface, it's minus degrees. So you feel with all this really tough experience, whenever you go to other locations, you can really think back on all this experience that you have and pull off the job with more confidence. For me to do that, all this stuff in Norway, it builds up really good confidence to go out and film in different challenges out there.
Oh, totally. And I think with what you must go through in the cold water, and I want to get into that in a second, but that really must, like you say, give you such a high benchmark for then going to the warmer places where things are perhaps a little bit easier, for you to be able to just really nail the shots and nail the production, because you've done it in such harsh environments.
Yeah, that's my experience, that since we are trained in so tough conditions, the confidence is just higher in pulling off all these weird challenges and different locations. And it's a good experience, definitely.
Oh, I bet. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about shooting in the cold. Because I follow your Instagram, I kind of follow you on Facebook, and I see the sort of places that you're going. What are the main challenges that you're finding with shooting in that sort of cold weather? I mean, you're in dry suits. Are they heated dry suits? Are you having warm water through? Like, how do you handle with the camera gear? Can you just go through a bit of those challenges that you're finding?
Yeah, so there are definitely challenges with it, because one thing is the temperature for us. We grew up in this country, and we feel we are used to the coldness, and you are in a way. All projects are different, so you have all this. We could do ice diving. It doesn't necessarily mean it's really cold, because on a really sunny day, your mind just changes to make it a comfortable dive. Even though could be -1 under the ice with salt water, or it could be 0 to 2 degrees usually in the fresh water. And we use heat, like some of us use heated vests under the dry suits, or we just really plan for, having good conditions. We have a heating tent as a wardrobe when we change. So, we're a good tip is to be warm all the way to you actually descent or jump in a hole, for example. So, if the hour before you start diving, you always being cold on your right thumb, you're definitely going to be cold on your right thumb the rest of the day. We always plan to we're comfortable and we have a good chance to be warm on the whole dive. But yeah, on ice diving, or when we go remote, far out on an island, and we know it's really cold, we use heated vest with a canister hanging on your BCD, for example. Good clothes, undergarments, wool socks, really good wool socks, and the best wool socks you can get is only your grandmother who can knit. So we always we find these different products, and that brand of those gloves are definitely the best. We tested them all. Like we search for the best all the time. But yeah, definitely for us, for the temperature, it's to try to be warm before you actually dive.
To get that core temperature really warm, and so you're at a warm spot to start with.
Yeah, because when you end up there under the ice or underwater, and you're going to film in that that cold condition, you kind of you sap out a little bit, like you don't mind the temperature, and then that's what's a little bit dangerous because of hypothermia. Hypothermia you don't really feel until it's bad.
Yeah.
So if you're just self-aware of how far you can stretch yourself in terms of dealing with the coldness, that's an important lesson, to have had. But yeah, after some time, you've done a couple of gigs, you know how far you can stretch it, and you can stretch it pretty far, and then anyways, we have all the safety measures, and Scandinavia is probably one of those countries with the toughest regulations in terms of safety. So we always cover there. We have a safety diver or a line holder and double communication, full face mask, and different stuff for different occasions.
Right. So you really are in a safe space when you're in there.
Yeah, definitely. Like we have to follow the regulations the same as the fire department, or the Navy divers sometimes the same safety measurements, or as the oil divers, it's super super safe, and we always plan for that. We always do our own risk analysis. We always do the recce, we do the pre-dives if we have the chance, and if it's a budget there, and we try to do that anyway.
Have you ever had any gigs or any projects where you've turned them down because it just seemed too dangerous?
No, we haven't turned down any projects, but we show them what's necessary for our safety or what's actually possible, and then maybe we get turned down because they don't have the budget. And for us and everyone else in this industry, safety is number one, so safety is kind of hard to discuss, especially when you ask us who are safety divers, who are marine coordinators. And so we haven't turned down any, but we just lead them on the way to actually realize what they want. And some people stop up because they just realize it's not going to work. So a few times that has happened, but that's mainly because of budget. They see that for this actually particular project, we just don't have enough finance to do it, to pull it off.
Yeah, because the team that you need is quite extensive, right? Because you've got yourself, and then you've probably got an AC, camera tech, and would you have a couple of safety divers as well if it's just you and the camera?
Yeah, if we do stuff exterior, that would be like a lake, a fjord, or whatever in the ocean. In Norway, you usually need a team of 4 safety people, which is new by 2020. So that would be me as an operator. That would be a safety diver and a line holder and a diving leader. So that's only for safety, and that includes me as well. And then maybe you have some talents. Maybe you need on the ratio, maybe you need another safety diver for that person or those persons. And I have an AC on top, because if I don't pull focus or trigger myself from down under, I have an AC doing that. Or if we have the correct cameras, let's say an Alexa Mini, he can actually, or she can change the settings, change the iris on the motor.
Yeah.
And usually I pick, in Norway, since we have lesser amount of people on set. Usually the ACs I've been working with, I've been teaching them up to kind of fill the role as a water tech as well. Because on the bigger gigs, I would prefer to have a water tech and AC as well. So the AC is only concentrating, about his focus system, about him and the DP, about the lenses and the monitors. And then the water tech can do everything within the water housing and the cables and all that stuff.
Yeah, because they are two very separate jobs, aren't they?
Yeah, it should be. But in Norway, we have less people on set. A feature film could differ between 20 to 50 people on set. And that's why I've taken it upon myself and with the first ACs to actually show them what a water tech would do, and to teach them, the hydroflex and all the routines for that. So like I mentioned, we were in the Mediterranean last year with National Geographic, and then I brought with me a first AC who's an expert in hydroflex stuff, and my own safety diver, because I tend to recommend using my safety crew, because we know how to communicate, we know what to expect of each other, and it just goes smoother and faster. And in the end, they will actually save money on that, because it's a good workflow. What you're used to.
Exactly. You've got a team that is used to working with each other and knows how to communicate and knows how to deal with any sort of problems that come up. Do you have a preference for the size of production? Like, do you prefer working on a feature film or a small music video, or do you have any kind of, or does it not really matter?
No, at this time of my life as an underwater cinematographer, I welcome everything. I'm so open for different projects, because that's kind of what keeps you going when you're kind of settled as an underwater cinematographer, and instead of you out there selling yourself as a guy filming underwater, the jobs are actually coming to you. Then I think it's healthy to keep a balance between, you could come to a big feature film, you get some storyboards, and you meet up on a day and just nail the shots. But then you have these music videos and short films and that doesn't really have that big system with them, and they just come to you and present an idea, and you have to solve everything, from the SFX to welding the platform, to do the risk assessment and to show them how to do it, and even make the storyboard sometime. And I think it's really healthy to go between all those jobs, because then you get challenged all the time and you kind of keep it active. And maybe for some people, when they get older and older, or they get a lot of feature film and TV series job, you could kind of relax a little bit. It goes, you go surfing a little bit, kind of on those waves. Well, I think it's good to always be open for those short films, those student projects asking for an underwater scene, and just because even on the smallest jobs you can learn stuff.
I totally agree with that, and I think with the smaller jobs and the lower budget things, I find them more challenging and more interesting. There's those problems that you need to solve. Yeah. Whereas on the bigger kind of feature films or the bigger budget stuff, when you've got a whole crew, you really end up just holding a camera.
Yeah, you do sometimes.
You can just kind of relax and do that, which is totally fine. But I think, to keep it interesting, like you say, it's good to kind of jump between the bigger budget and the smaller budget things.
Yeah, I think on the biggest challenges that we had is between music videos and short films. And we do some short films as passion projects as well. I get asked to be more involved, like a director comes to me and they say, I want to do some underwater stuff because I've been watching what you are doing, and maybe you want to do something together. And then you start plan, and when you do stuff, you always have some passion projects in the back of your head. always dreaming. And yeah, now and then, between 2 or 3 years, maybe you realize some of those projects, and then at that time you can actually give some of your own creativity. You can plan stuff, you can dream, and you can visualize it, and then that's so healthy to have passion projects. You should have it all the time, even though you're 25 or 50, and you have all these big DPs as well. They go off and do these small short films or getting asked to do different stuff sometime as well. And yeah, I think it's really healthy. You never stop learning.
And I think with that sort of thing, it keeps you active. It keeps your mind kind of moving, because even for us this is a dream job. But even if you're doing your dream job every day, it can turn into a bit of a routine. So I think having something that's going to kind of mix it up a bit and make you think about stuff is really good.
Yeah, definitely. And we are lucky when we do underwater stuff. Everything is kind of different anyway. It's a special thing, because every time, if I've done a scene before and it's almost not the same crew, but you come to the same type of project, you still feel you feel lucky to be out there on this job. And it's kind of different anyway, every time, because it's the underwater world is always amazing, and every time we come on set and we do underwater stuff, all these people on set, the script, the director, even sometimes we did this music video now in January, where we did this whole thing, platform, sinking a guy when it actually looks like the water is rising. I could hear from the bottom of the pool the director screaming on the playback. So it's so much fun to introduce people to the underwater realm.
And I think that's something that really gets me as well, is when you can do that. I mean, if that kind of shot or that kind of setup where it blows people's mind. Mm-hmm. And it's something that's usually so simple underwater, and it's just something that they've never seen before. I think that is that's for me, that's the big payoff, is hearing those screams underwater, or even, just looking at yourself underwater and thinking, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah. Like even when you watch, in the monitor yourself and you're amazed, then it's a pretty cool gig. I still find and think about stuff underwater that is not yet done. It still is an element that's kind of fresh. People starting filming underwater, say just a generation ago, maximum. It's still stuff that amazes, and especially now with Instagram and everyone is on there, you get a lot of places to be inspired. I really like when I have to rewatch stuff to find out, like, how did they pull that off? Like, I still don't understand it. I even have to contact them or whatever. That's fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of brings me into the next part that I want to talk about, which is how I think it's the first time I even found you was your Rising Water short film.
Yeah, that was one of our passion projects, actually.
Yeah, well, that was one of those films where I looked at it and went, hang on, how have they even done this? It was mind-blowing. And then to see the BTS, because you guys released the behind-the-scenes video as well, and then to go, wow, this is all real, blew my mind again. And you could see from everyone involved in that it was a total passion project.
Yeah, it was a small crew, and that's actually the same comment we get from almost everyone we show it to, everyone on festivals when we done Q&A and stuff. Like nobody believes us when we say this is on location. This is true.
So with that in mind, let's give the listeners, if they haven't seen it, can you just give it a quick overview of what the project is?
Yeah, so it was me, the director Nils, and the DP Andreas. We want to do something in this lake. We knew this lake. We all in Norway heard about this. We call this the Atlantis of Norway. It's a sunken village for 100 years ago when a dam went down there and it filled up this stone small settlement of a farmer or something. And we done a few recce dives there, and it's just few pictures because few people go there diving. It's kind of protected. So And then throughout a couple of years, we've just been dreaming, visualizing, having a few meetings now and then. And then we ended up with this poetic short film, which is a tribute to life and how we feel nature is evolving, how life is evolving, and we just want to make it really beautiful, make it really interesting, so you actually have to watch twice, make it very real, and find a balance between if it's interesting but also a little bit poetic and not too far, but because it still is a real place. So everything you see in that short film is real. It's just one VFX shot that we put a jellyfish in that lake because we want to emphasize the birth, the end, and the nature. And so we actually did a stock. The director, he filmed a jellyfish in an aquarium in Stockholm, and we put it in post, and we put an embroidery, like a human, as a baby inside her, and embroidery. And yeah, that's it. So everything else is real, and most things are shot with natural light. We have a scene where the girl, the talent, whose name is Kiki, she's an Arctic freediver. She walks towards this house, and that's lit with some RE lamps, but that's it. But yeah, it's a special piece that we were very proud of, and we even had gigs after this production that pull out frames from this short film Rising on Water, and I said we want that same scene. And me and the DP, we actually went now to Spain in February, and based on some frame grabs from that short film, we filmed a Japanese commercial in Spain in February now, and that was kind of the treatment came from this short film. So it's fun to see how it's evolving, kind of. And we've been to a few festivals, some Q&As, and yeah, it's fun to talk about it.
I bet. I mean, it's one of those things that has every frame of it is beautiful, and every frame of it looks purposeful. Like there's nothing in there that is not that doesn't work. And even Kiki, so just for the listeners, so Kiki is actually walking through this underwater kind of forest, really, through this forest across a stone bridge. That blew my mind. Up to this kind of ruined house, like a stone house. And then there's this beautiful like orange light coming from under the water as well. And none of it looks out of place. Like it is all so cohesive. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's thanks to the director. He really put his heart in this, and even his money, and he had a good. It was all in the end up in his head and up to him. So I think really he pulled it off, and we spent many days there. It was super cold. I don't know if people can tell, but yeah, it was like 7-8 degrees in that lake. And that's also why it's very preserved. The tree still looks mystique and complete, kind of. And the visibility is, almost like on Iceland. You see this 40-50 meter visibility.
Oh, it's like glass.
Yeah, it does. And that's, it's not too much algae up there. It's altitude. It's groundwater from the mountains and the ice. So yeah, it was very cold. We had very few takes, but that's also why we flew in Kiki from Holland, because it's just, I think it's maybe like 3 Arctic freedivers that could pull this off, but then we also had to choose the correct one for the piece in terms of casting, and availability.
She's cast really well. Like she fits that role really well. She doesn't look. I don't know if freedivers have a look, but she doesn't look athletic like a. She doesn't look like a competitive freediver. She looks just like a regular person.
Yeah, she looks real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she's got the nice long hair. So as she's walking, it's really emphasizing that underwater feeling. When I saw the film, it didn't look cold. It wasn't until I saw the BTS and saw Kiki frozen to the bone, sitting in that rowboat out in the middle of that lake, that I was like, oh my God, she's incredible.
Yeah, that was insane. Like she had no insulation at all because of effectiveness and safety. Safety, you could say, but in terms of getting her down there and not messing too much with the weight calibration, we didn't really want to. We ended up not putting neoprene on her for insulation, and she also didn't want that in the end because of all the testing. We did testing in the pool and also in the lake, so we had a good forerun before the actual shoot. But it's a super remote location. It's far from people, houses. We just rented this house by a barn, like 5 minutes drive away from it, and that's the only house in miles. So luckily we had this house, and between every take we drove her down there, heated her up in the shower, pulled her back again, and down in the water. I think we had like four takes a day, and that's it.
And how did you? I mean, the short film's only a couple of minutes long. Yeah. Was there many takes that didn't make it into the film?
Yeah. I think we could double the short film, in terms of quality shots that we have, like active shots. Yeah, we just.
How long was each take? Like, what was her breath hold like in that cold water?
It was, by my experience, you probably experienced that too. But throughout the day, the talents, they tend to get better lung capacity through it, like in the end of the day than in the start.
Yeah.
Even though they are professionals or they are just talents who do stunts and they can do water sometimes. With a normal actor, maybe you start on 10 seconds in the beginning of the day, but then actually after 5 hours, after lunch, they tend to be up in 40 seconds. Kiki is she's a professional Arctic freediver, not like a record holder freediver and deep freediver, but she had up to a minute down there, and that's 8 degrees, and you have no sight, no mask, no only weights in your jeans, and she had to rely 100% on Henrik, which is one of the safety divers that I use, and they formed a good relationship that she just trusted him 100%, and he had to pick her up every time because she was negative point. So
yeah, I think there's a shot in the BTS where he basically comes in to pull her up to the surface.
Yeah, correct. So we had lots of safety divers on this one because it was so special. And we did so much testing and so much risk assessment, and it was most people on set were safety, to say it. Say it like that.
And the other question I had was just at the end there's that orange light that's coming in. What was that? Was that a just like a dive light with an orange gel on it, or how did you achieve that lighting?
That was actually a tungsten RA light that we put on land. So we brought this generator that just only powered this lamp, and we gelled it up. We did a couple of tests with different gels, different intensity, but that was actually turned into be a night shot to get the most out of that world we want to go into in the end of the short film.
Yeah. And so that light was above the water and not under the water?
Yeah, that was above the water. And
okay.
By doing it over water, we also get this, sun ray kind of play in that water. If we would pull that tungsten underwater, you don't really get that playfulness that you get from all the movements and the waves on the water, because it was kind of windy that day too, or it turned out to be at the end of the day. So we get much more play in the water by having it on the surface. So that was intentional, and we had all these plans for all these lights. We even wanted to do a zip line over the whole lake and fill up all these diffusion lights over the whole area, and we want to do more night shots, but we just ended up shooting so much in daylight because it was so different, so beautiful, and we just needed this last scene to be there at night in the end, and intentionally we brought that light on the surface because of all that playfulness and all the strobe and sun ray looking movements in the water.
Yeah, you got that kind of God rays coming through, like it had a lot of life. And I think that's what kind of made that scene, was having that life coming through all the particulate in the water, and gave it like some
Yeah,
volume.
I
It was
agree.
quite incredible. So going from that to the other extreme, and I know you can't really talk about this too much because the film hasn't come out yet, but you just was it this year or the end of last year that you wrapped up filming on the new James Bond film, No Time to Die?
Yeah, we can't talk much about it because of the NDAs, but yeah, definitely the Broccoli family has gone out with some articles, and because it's postponed, because of the Corona situation. But we filmed that a year ago. It was actually in the start of the Bond production because of weather conditions, really, in Norway. We only have ice, say, from December to March.
Right.
And actually, this year was different because in like decades, because of this strange winter and summer we had the last year, it's been super hot at the summer and super hot at the winter. So this year we almost had no ice, and we even did a beer commercial now in February under the ice, and we just had one day it could work in terms of ice thickness and safety, and we hit that day. So
Yeah,
luckily,
right.
but yeah, it's very strange year this year. But last year we did the Bond, and they did several scenes on the ice, but also under the ice. So we helped out the local production company and the English production company coming over the pond with all those scenes.
Right. And can you talk about who you work with the main cast, or your second unit, or any of that sort
Yeah,
of stuff?
we did second unit, as this was a heavy, you could say, action scene. Going under the ice, it's kind of special.
Yeah.
But the main unit was here at the same time. So we had the chance to be kind of close, even though we were at two different locations. It was only half an hour from it. But yeah, it was a very good experience. And also the cinematographer this year, the DP, he's Swedish, is Linus Sandgren. So yeah, it was really cool working for him as well. He's just he just came from over the border from Sweden, but he's now on this, been on all these huge movies. So it was nice having him here in Norway and doing this one.
Yeah. And how do you find working with DPs? Do you find that you prefer working with certain DPs because you gel with them a bit more, or what's the kind of relationship there?
Yeah, it's all DPs are different, and I enjoy working both as a DP underwater for some projects that I've done, but also being the extent operator for the DP when that person can't dive. So worked with lots of different guys in Norway, and I'm really happy to work with several DPs on several shoots. So it's always nice, to be contacted that second time, because that means they're happy with what you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always fun to get a visit from international DPs like Linus we worked on with Bond, and then we did this BMW commercial with Simon Duggan, who just came from the set of Edge of Tomorrow, and then he came up to Lofoten up north to do some Arctic surfing and all that stuff with us.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's also a big factor of where you are learning all the time. It's to work with all these different DPs. Because they are so different in style, and some of them care a lot about having an operator for himself, especially in the international guys, because they have used it. In Norway, I would say 9 out of 10 DPs, they also operate themselves because of, as I mentioned before, we have a smaller amount of people on set.
Yeah.
So in Norway, it's where they are not used to have an operator for them. It's always much more, a blessing for me to actually be that person who can help them do that. And I feel a lot of appreciation, and I learn a lot of stuff from all these different DPs. So yeah, it's fun. It's a good school.
With that in mind as well, because a lot of people listening to this podcast are probably thinking to themselves, how can I do what Kjetil's doing? How can I get into that industry, or how can I take my underwater cinematography to the next level? Mm-hmm. Have you got any tips or any kind of techniques that they could be using themselves?
I would say, if you want to do underwater stuff, diving, having your buoyancy and all, checked all the boxes in diving is paramount. Like you have to, that shouldn't be one thought when you're on set. It's just there. You are a professional. You flip a switch on the tank, and you are perfect. So do lots of diving. I have almost 3,000 dives in all different conditions: current, dry suit, cold, warm, shark diving, everything. So it's. I've been blessed by traveling so much and working at these different dive shops and doing all these weird underwater filming projects, that I always think back that it's so nice to have this good buoyancy. Like from the second you enter the water, it's just 2 blows to your BCD and the buoyancy is set.
Yeah.
And you always travel with backup amount of everything. That's a good tip as well, as most people probably know. Take care of your equipment. Maintenance is fun. It's not like a hassle after. With me and my crew, we always had this vision of that what comes after the shoot. For most people, it's boring. You have to demount, you have to rinse, maintain all this stuff. For us, this is fun. That's when we prepare everything for the next gig. It's like, hey, right. This is so you have to find the happy places at some places and place them like that. So it's always all the boring stuff, let's say, doesn't drag you down, kind of. And yeah, maybe when you think about all that stuff and that's planned, I think you should just go for it. Like, you shouldn't be annoying, but you should just really stick in it, because the more and more gigs you do, by patience, you will get there. Like I've been now diving almost 15 years, and from day one, I understood that. Like on the first dive ever, I remember it was awful because of all the Darth Vader sounds, the gear. Even though I was in Red Sea and just kneeling down on some sand on the 1 meter depth, that was awful. And then we did the first open sea dive, and I saw this guy filming us, and I knew from there, this is what I want to do. And then now, 15 years later, I still want to do it. So, and I started, doing some music videos, short films, and just filming some stuff underwater for TV or whatever. And it was not well paid, but we did it to the full length, because even though, let's say today as well, you get the music videos and they are a good challenge, but maybe they are not paid the same as a feature film, but still it's so important, and you still want to show your best and do your best, because it's your reputation and it's your style, and you are here because you want to do this. Why go around, making bad mood on set or whatever? So yeah, it's just this is you. You have to, if you really want to do it, you should keep it up and do it all the way. I hope I can do that. In 20 years, when I can still do this, I hope to have the same mentality, like this is fun. And that's why, Pete Romano, who's the owner of Hydroflex, and I've been really good friends with, and Matt and everyone at Hydroflex. Pete is like that too, he's a role model and keeping up his good spirit, even though he's one of the legends and done all these gigs throughout all these years. He's still going at it with passion, and he even says that these workshops that he has, it's I learn something every day, and here's this underwater DP legend, and he's still saying that. That's inspiring.
Oh, yeah, totally. And Pete's such an amazing guy as well. He's such a friendly guy. He's totally open with all his experience, and he has no trouble with people coming up to him and asking him questions.
Yeah, he's a good school in himself, and me and Storyline are so happy to be the dealer of Scandinavia and representing Pete and Hydroflex and everyone here. And every gig I go to with my Hydroflex, I'm proud. So, and I have a good connection with Pete as well, and we talk sometimes. And I'm sending some Norwegian chocolate every time I'm sending repaired stuff back to them. And so, yeah, it's a nice bunch of people.
Kjetil, this has been amazing. It's just been such a good amount of information, and it's really been awesome hearing your stories and hearing your journey through, from the Red Sea to now doing major global feature films. Where can people follow you? Have you social media and that sort of stuff, and your website?
Yeah, I have my Instagram, which is KC Astrup, ASTRUP, and I post all my work stuff on Instagram. I also have my Facebook, and but yeah, mainly on Instagram. You can follow my work. Okay,
I'll add links in the show notes for people as well, so they can just add you and follow. Thanks. And see where you're going to next, because it's always you seem to be on the move constantly.
Yeah, that's my goal. Like, even though I have my wife here in Oslo and 2 kids now, but yeah, we when you are in that kind of freelance community, you know the deal, and you know what you're in for. So yeah, we travel. Like this year, we already been to Spain for this ad, and we've been under the ice here in Norway, and next now we are quoting jobs in Jordan and other places in Norway. So yeah, you need to travel around, and I enjoy it, and especially with all this travel, all these different locations, and you can use them for productions. So yeah, it's I'm around there.
Yeah, totally, and it's so motivating. It's so inspiring. So thanks very much. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing all your information, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again later on and with some more stories.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Brett.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I love talking about cinematography, so I always get a lot out of these conversations, whether it's gear or techniques or just cool stories from the set. It's always interesting. If you like the podcast, please subscribe. Or if you want to feel more involved, feel free to join the Facebook group listed in the show notes, where you can comment on the episodes and even suggest future guests. The Underwater Podcast is presented and produced by me, Brett Stanley, and our music is Neo by Oh Boy. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere else these things appear. Keep creating, everyone. I'll see you in the water.